Hey everyone, it's Armor Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Legends. Welcome to a monster analysis on the upcoming Magic Maze monster, the Dreamer. This monster is a support monster and she's pretty interesting. So the lore was introduced during the Light Merge story, so I'm not going to go ahead and read through that. So let's just get right into the analysis. The Dreamer is a magic support monster with evasion and positive skill protection. She can apply this to any ally. Plus, she can also remove negative effects and apply light protection to all allies, and there's more. Watch how she applies double damage, damage boost, and back to baby to ally of her choice. The Dreamer can apply positive effects protection to all her allies too. To top it off, she has an evolving trait. At rank 0, she has possession immunity. She cannot get possessed. So Witch Cat has possession, Black Feather has possession, any other monsters out there in the future that get released that have possession, this monster is immune to that. At rank 1, you even add a cooldown activation immunity, so you cannot get hit with CDA, and that is one of the more popular denial mechanisms. You know, Kodama has cooldown activation, Henrich, we have backwards Tabora from the PvP, we even have Lindworm with single CDA, so this monster is immune to possession and to cooldown activation. And then at rank 3, you even get a Status Caster Area Nightmare immunity, which at first glance you might be like, why the heck do I need that? To me, it looks like it is literally just a counter for Witch Cat, who starts the game off with Status Caster Nightmares to all the enemy monsters, and Witch Cat actually has her own banner, Witch Cat's Banner, which will drain enemy stamina at the end of the turn if any enemy has Nightmares. So it's a way to counter that, essentially. And from what I'm looking at, Nightmares is becoming a little more prevalent. You know, SocialPoint buffed it. Instead of dealing 5% of HP, now it's 10%, and it lasts 4 turns instead of 3 turns. So I can kind of see why they add that. Overall, I don't think it'll make too much of a difference. I think the possession immunity and cooldown is just the amazing thing about this monster. So getting her to rank 1 will put her at her best, minus the stats increase from further ranking up. Alright, so let's talk about stats. This monster, oh, I can't highlight it. This monster has a life stat of 72,384, which is definitely on the lower end. It's tied with a ton of monsters like Heist, Thunderkong, Shelly, Kodama, Vanoss 2099, Lightmare, Daigo, Manipulate, Witchcat, Noamori, Necrolik, and Vampirastro. So I just named a bunch of monsters. They all have that low life stat. And speaking of low stats, the power stat is 7040. This is officially the lowest power stat, tied with that of Vampirastro. So not an attacker whatsoever, and that's fine. This monster doesn't need to attack. This monster is a supporter. So what matters the most is the speed stat, and this monster has a speed stat of 5962. That is officially the second highest stat in the game, tied with that of Vampirastro. The only monster, no, sorry, tied with that of Lindworm. So Lindworm and this monster are tied in terms of speed. The only monsters that are faster than Lindworm and the Dreamer are 3 monsters: Ignis, Ferris, and Vampirastro. They have a speed stat of 5984. So second highest stat tied with Lindworm. That is amazing. And even better, this monster has the revival, well, the essence, or aka the revival essence. If this monster dies, this monster can come back to life. That is amazing. So similar to that of Lindworm. Now the other relic slot is the Trap Relic, which in my personal opinion, yes, you can put a Nabulance Trap, an Oblation Trap, and drain enemy stamina if your HP drops below 50%. But I'm not the biggest fan of the Trap Relic. I would have preferred something more of a Stamina Manipulation Relic, a Stamina Regen Relic. You know, going back to Lindworm, the fact that he can hold a relic to recover stamina is amazing. The fact that the Dreamer only has the Trap Relic, until we get a better relic for that category, then it'll be good. But right now, the Revival Essence is awesome. In terms of the books, we have Female, Good Legion, and Spirits. And with that being said, let's get into the attacks. Light Catcher deals moderate magic damage to one enemy, applies light protection to itself. So the cool thing about this skill, it is 0 cooldown, so it's spammable if you needed to. It does cost 22 stamina, it deals 40 damage, and you just apply light protection. Light protection makes it so you can only take damage from the light elements. So if there are no light monsters on the enemy side, you yourself are protected. Peaceful Dream deals low light damage to all enemies and applies immune to nightmares to all allies. Another spammable skill to protect you against nightmares. I don't really think you're going to need this, especially if you have this at rank 3. Not going to be needed. Keep in mind, the Area Nightmare immunity is a status caster, so it could be removed with a positive effect removal from your trait. Moving on to tier 1 skills, we have Night Protection. Removes negative effects from one ally, applies immune to nightmares to one ally. Once again, I don't really care for the immunity to nightmares. What I do care more about is that removing of the negative effects from a single ally, that you have this on a 1-turn cooldown. I would have really loved this if it was spammable, but hey, it's still good. A 1-turn cooldown, and you can just cleanse from a single ally if you need it. So think of a situation where the enemy goes and does AoE possession, one of your allies gets possessed, Night Protection, possession is gone, and that monster is free to attack. Moving on, we have Honor Shield, which applies evasion to all allies, and this is pretty awesome. So with Honor Shield, you basically make it so your monsters cannot get hit. And again, you are the second fastest monster, or you have the second fastest stat in the game, tied with that of Lindworm. So depending on who you're facing, that you could really use this to your advantage, assuming you go first. So all things being equal, if you and Lindworm have the exact same speed stat, you activate your Rune Guard, and then you make yourself faster. If there is no enemy monster that can cleanse, or if the enemy monster that can cleanse is going second in the turn order, you can start the game off with this monster, do Honor Shield, your whole team gets evasion, the enemy Wormlad is not going to be able to do the baby reversion skill. At worst, they can maybe remove positive effects from one of your monsters, so that Lindworm probably ends up recharging, and then the enemy monster finally cleanses after that. This is a way to protect your whole entire team. That is amazing. This skill, if this monster is super fast, you can also use this monster in the Infinite Gauntlet to run this monster with like 2 attackers, put a bunch of team speed, this monster off speed, just put evasion to your whole team, and then you can just attack with your 2 attackers. So this skill is pretty darn awesome, I would say. And again, if this monster dies, you come back to life and you have revival essence, so then you just reapply the evasion. So this is really cool. I'm really liking this skill. It's a 2-turn cooldown, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can use this skill, especially with different team comps and everything. Moving on to tier 2, we have Furious Reborn. Applies double damage to an ally, applies damage boost to an ally, transforms one ally into baby, requires cooldown. Alright, so the way I see this skill, I imagine both the double damage and the damage boost are going to last 2 turns. It would be dumb if they only last 1 turn, considering you're going to be a baby one of those turns. So when you're transformed into a baby, the enemy monsters cannot target you unless they have the Pierce. If they have Pierce, then they can hit you, but if they don't have Pierce, your monster is basically protected. So that's the cool thing. Now, of course, when your monster's a baby and it goes in the turn order, then it has to go back to an adult before it can attack, so then it can be subject to an attack. So maybe you can turn transfer to the monster after it transforms back into an adult. There's different ways to get around this. Keep in mind that baby reversion is also known as a control skill, control status. So you can actually, if you have immunity to control, you can actually block the baby reversion, which would mean a free double damage and a damage boost. So this could have a lot of synergy with monsters that can give you immunity to control. For example, Noamori, the Golden Legends Pass monster, that monster can give you torture immunity, can give you immunity to control immunity. So if you have those 2 monsters together, you can pull off some really nifty combos, right? Double damage and damage boost to one of your attackers. That's basically triple damage. So that's pretty awesome. And again, if it does last for 2 turns, then that's 2 turns of having triple damage. Determination applies positive effect protection to our allies. This skill is also really cool in my personal opinion. I really love the fact that this monster has a positive effect protection for your whole entire team, especially because a lot of monsters nowadays start off with different status casters, right? We've seen stamina regen, we've seen life regen, megatons, of course. Megaton is something that always gets cleansed away right away, but if you have a megaton monster and you have this monster, and there is no, like, Vampira right now. Vampira can double cleanse. She has the Reaper to single cleanse, and then she has an AoE. I think it's Singing for You or something like that removes positive effects from all enemies. That can get rid of a positive effects protection plus Megatons. But if you have this monster partnered up with a Megaton monster, and you do positive effect protection, you are protecting your Megatons monster, plus you're protecting whatever status effect you have. And again, you can always follow up with another positive effect. So I think this skill, Determination, is going to be something you definitely use. Again, just imagine a scenario where the enemy has like an Ignis. Well, Ignis has 2 cleansing skills. A Tabora that can remove positive effects once. You put this monster, you have your Megaton, you have your attacker. You go first, you start the game off with Determination, your monster's Megaton is protected, yeah, it gets attacked, your attacker attacks, whatever. When it's your turn again, you set up the evasion, and then the enemy can't remove the evasion, because they're going to have another skill. They're going to have to remove it. They're going to have to remove the evasion, and they already wasted their cleansing skill removing the positive effects protection. So that's awesome. But even more so, if we take a look at skill like Magic Cloud, which removes negative effects from our allies and applies light protection to our allies, that's even better, right? Going back to that scenario with the Megaton monster, let's say the Megaton monster got hit with a lot of dots or whatever happened, you can use Magic Cloud to remove the negative effect from your Megaton monster and apply light protection. So now, if the enemy does not have a cleansing skill and has no light monsters, they cannot deal any damage. So you have a Megaton monster that is pretty vulnerable, right? All negative effects were cleansed, whether it be any dots, and now it can only be damaged by the light element. And of course, maybe that third monster you have is just more support. And going back to Noah, the fact that you can do immune to torture, immune to control, like you can just synergize a lot. So I'm really loving that. And then the last skill we have is Unbreakable Will, which applies positive effects protection to an ally and applies evasion to an ally, which is also really cool. Going back to that same scenario of a Megaton monster, here's the way I see this monster working and being quite awesome. You start the game off with Megatons and this monster, and the first skill you do is going to be your Determination to positive effects protection. the enemy is going to maybe get rid of the positive effects protection, used to have Megatons. On your next turn, you activate Unbreakable Will, so now your Megaton monster has Evasion, Megatons, and positive effect protection. So what are you going to do to the monster, right? And especially if you're using, it doesn't matter who you're using, right? If you use Bomb Beta can heal by 50%. Bomb Beta can sunburn the enemy monsters. Bomb Beta can self-life regen. If you have Shelly, that's even more devastating. Shelly can activate shields, and those shields are not going to be protected with positive effect protection. If you're still using Mythic monsters and you're using Daedalus can do the 50% damage protection. You can do life regen. You can self-cleanse. You have so much. So I think this monster combined with Megatons is going to be something that you can bring for offense, and it is going to be really, really powerful. I really like this monster. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be investing in this monster. The way I see this monster is you give this monster 3 speed runes, you have this monster go first, and you just protect your team. Whether it be with evasion, whether it be with Unbreakable Will, whether you cleanse and apply the light protection, you have so much different synergy you can utilize. There's definitely combos with Furious Reborn, although I think most of the time I'm just going to be relying on the supportive aspects with the evasion and the positive effect protection. So I'm going to be interesting to see what players think about this monster and how you use this monster. So with that being said, that's my analysis on the Dreamer. Let me know what you think about her in the comments below. Oh, the ultimate, sorry. Sleep for Eternity, transform all enemies into babies, applies a 3-turn death countdown to all enemies. It's whatever, you know. When an enemy's a baby, they can't do anything, so the 3-turn death countdown, it's guaranteed 2 turns. So if you can just stall them and they die, that's cool, but it's nothing too game-breaking, I would say. I personally like the light protection to your team and the evasion more. So with that being said, guys, that is going to be it for this analysis. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Thank you very much, and remember to subscribe.